All right, everybody. We're doing something a little bit different today. We're going to do an NFC North Roundtable. I was talking to Boss beforehand, and I saw all the trash talk on Twitter, and I said, you know what we need to do is take it off of Twitter and see if we can bring it over here. And unfortunately, I talked to the big mouths on Twitter, guys with 4 followers that had a lot to say, and none of them wanted to come on YouTube and publicly state their position. I figured it'd be better to get some people that actually know what they're talking about, anyways. Unfortunately, not that anybody's going to notice, but we don't have a Lions representative today. Dosa Dion, if you're subscribed to his channel, go ahead and unsubscribe because he bailed on me. But anyways, I'm just kidding. Dosa's awesome. You should subscribe to his channel. Real simple. We're going to try to keep it nice and short, but I just want to ask some very basic questions, and hopefully there's a lot of arguing and fighting and those kinds of things. So no particular order. We'll just kind of go this way because that's how it is on my screen to start things off. But and by the way, if you don't know, if I say rank the teams and you're like, I have no idea, I don't know a single thing about the Bears line, just tell me a little bit about your team and how you think they're doing. But Boss, let's start with you. Tell me in order best to worst teams in the NFC North.
Okay. I got the Packers first. I mean, all bias aside, I think they do have the best roster, right? I got Vikings second. I think they're going to be better than that 8-9 record last year. I actually, even Troy, although he's not here, I do have the Lions third and the Bears fourth.
Tanishka, let's go with you. What do you got? Same question.
I pretty similar to what he just said. I honestly think that there is an argument for the Vikings roster being better than the Packers, but the Packers have Aaron Rodgers, so that kind of just trumps everything. Yeah. So I still got the Packers at number 1, the Vikings at number 2. I actually think the Lions can be fairly decent this year, like not a threat or anything, but definitely out of the basement. I think that there's talent on that roster for the first time since even with Stafford, they haven't been that talented for a while. So Lions third, and then the Bears fourth.
All right, Jacob, let's hear it.
All right. So Bears fans aren't going to be happy with mine. I literally had the exact same that both of you have. I have Packers first, Vikings second, Lions third. Although I think the gap between the Vikings and Lions isn't as massive as people think. And that's no disrespect to the Vikings. I think they'll be in playoff contention most certainly. But I think that, sure, I think Jared Goff's going to hold them back to an extent, but this roster got a lot better. They have one of the best offensive lines in the league, much better weapons than they had last year. So I think that they're third and the Bears are fourth. And I don't even think the Bears are going to be terrible this year. I don't think they'll be a bottom 3 team in the league like some people think they will. I just think that it's, a first-year head coach. That's the first year of a rebuild. I'm being totally honest. It's the first year of a rebuild, so it's going to take some time. Next year, I think, is when the Bears will start to propel themselves into playoff contention, but I don't think this is the year.
So I thought about kind of moving on to quarterback, but that's the 2 problems with that is everyone's going to have kind of the same rankings again. And
I'm surprised we all agreed.
I asked about quarterbacks. It's going to sound like a Packer fan just asking Bears and Vikings fans to brag about Rodgers. Okay. I'm not going to do that, but I am curious about Justin Fields and everybody's thoughts on him. And I was going to say Goff or Fields, but our Lions guy isn't here, so we'll just leave it at that. But I am curious, because I know Bears fans are real high on Justin Fields and not necessarily everybody is. Jacob, let's start with you this time. What are your thoughts on Justin Fields as far as where he is and how good you think he's going to be?
I think he's going to take a pretty sizable step in year 2. I don't think it's going to be massive to the point of a Joe Burrow where he leads his team to the Super Bowl in his second year in the NFL, or even a Justin Herbert where, he had a strong rookie year to begin with, but the second year he really propelled himself to be one of the league's best. I don't think it's going to be to that level, but I think that the change in offensive scheme, I think much better suits his style of play in terms of the play action using I think RPOs are going to be massive, and, the utilization of read options I think will be huge too. And bootlegs, getting Fields on the move, stretching the field vertically and horizontally, which the Bears didn't do much of either last year. I think that's really going to benefit him. I think that the one thing I'm concerned about with him is pocket presence, and the fact that the Bears don't have a good offensive line kind of worries me. So I do think that there are going to be some bumps along the ride, but ultimately I do think Fields can be a franchise quarterback, and I'm pretty pretty confident about it in a way that I haven't been for a Bears quarterback in quite some time.
Tanishka?
Yeah, if anyone has been following me on Twitter, they knew that I wanted Justin Fields 2 years ago. So I'm a little like hesitant to be super one-sided about this because I do think he's really talented. And I think that like the talent on the Bears offense right now, obviously Mooney is great. Komet, I think, could be pretty nice this year. The running game should be like good enough. Offensive line, yeah, it's still a concern, but I think it should be better than whatever last year was. And obviously the scheme's gonna help. So I think that even if Justin Fields does play better this year, which I think he should, you might not initially just see it, especially if you don't watch every snap of the Bears, just because there might be like drops or mistakes by the people around him that make him look worse than he actually will be. And I know the Bears have a lot of cap space next year. They have draft picks and everything. So like next year when they can actually get him some legitimate talent, like as great as Mooney is, I think if they got a true number one receiver, that would be a really cool duo with whoever they get. That's when you might see like a true year 3 leap from Fields. Like I think he should be better this year. Like fixing the pocket presence, that was one of the biggest things. Like I didn't watch all of his snaps or anything, but like in the games he had, the one game he had versus us and then a couple other games, that was probably one of the bigger things I did notice. So I think the Bears, as bad as they probably will be this year, I do still think like the Seahawks and the Falcons, like in the NFC, are probably worse. But as bad as they will be this year, they are probably pretty well set up to rebuild if they hit on some of the draft picks and spend money in the right way. Kind of not going what the Jaguars did the last 2 years, like overpaying everybody just to get people to play for them. So it really just depends on how they use the resources because they do have them.
All right, boss.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like with both of what you guys said, I like his athletic ability. You know, his ability to extend plays, his ability to run. I think he is a great talent, and I agree with the fact that he should improve, and that shouldn't be too hard to do. I mean, 7 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. It's just not good. Like you guys said, the Bears' offensive line a little bit sketchy. The receiver room outside of Mooney, I don't really see it. But as Tanishka said, if they add talent in the right spots with draft picks, free agents, and all that in the future years, it depends how long they want to invest into Justin Fields. It depends, if in a couple years he's still not doing good, will they move on from him? But I don't think so. I think he does have the talent. He does scare me a little bit in terms of, a running quarterback. The Packers tend to just not be good against running quarterbacks.
Same.
So in that regard, his athletic ability, it's 100% there. So it does scare me a little bit. Hey, if he puts it all together, the Bears get a really good roster. That is scary. So, but I do agree. He'll have a little bit better of a year this year.
By the way, if anybody in the chat has any questions, go ahead and throw them up and I'll try to get it out there. Since we all kind of had similar rankings of the teams in the NFC North, I wanted to ask, if we assume the Packers are probably going to be in the playoffs and maybe the bottom 2 are not, do we think the Vikings are going to be a playoff team this year? Tanishka, we'll start with you.
I go so back and forth on this. I think it seriously depends on how much of an impact Mike Zimmer had on that team and in a bad way, and how much Kevin O'Connell can fix that, because the roster, it's better than last year. We might actually have some NFL caliber guards this year. The center position's still a mess. The offensive line, though, overall should be better. Receivers are about the same. Maybe KJ Osborne has a better year 3. And if Irv Smith can hopefully stay healthy, then I think that the weapons are all going to be great. Offensively, they should be okay. I think Kevin O'Connell's scheme will help a lot more than whatever Clint Kubiak was doing last year. Defensively, I don't know. Like, the pass rush should be nice, but there's not a lot of depth up front. Linebackers are fine. Safeties are good. The corner room, like, still worries me a lot because there's talent there. There's youth there. Like Andrew Booth Jr. could be really good. Cam Dantzler, I think he's a fine number 2 corner. But, like, there's nobody on this team that has, like, truly stepped up to be a number 1, someone that you feel even remotely comfortable guarding another team's best player. And if you really want to be a playoff team or, like, a threat in the playoffs, you need somebody like that. So maybe someone breaks out this year. I don't know. We'll see. But I think the NFC is, like, weak enough to the point where they could sneak in as a wild card, the 6th or 7th seed. I just don't see a lot of good teams in the NFC, and the schedule should be pretty favorable. So I think they make the playoffs, but I think it'll probably just be like a one and done, or maybe they get lucky like they did in 2019 with that win over the Saints, but nothing more than that. Like, not really a true threat.
So again, with assuming everyone's going to have similar rankings as far as who's probably the top and maybe second, looking at wide receiver, I would assume it's going to be Vikings and then probably Lions after that. But I am curious, since it's been a lot of discussion on Twitter, let's just say, who has the worst wide receivers between the Packers and the Bears? And I'll let Jacob go first.
Oh boy, you're throwing me right into this. All right. I'm going to piss someone off no matter what I say. So might as well just put the Band-Aid off. It's a very tough question because I think there are legitimate arguments in both directions. I think that the Packers have a handful of guys that I think could, develop down the line as very good players. At the very least, solid starters if they don't make an impact right away. I'm going to give the very narrow edge to the Bears. Maybe it's the homer in me. I don't know. But I do believe that Darnell Mooney's the best wide receiver out of anyone that either team has. And I do think that has to count for something. And, coming off of a 1,000-yard season, I believe that, Mooney he's on track to have a very good year if he's able to stay healthy, because a lot of the target share from last year disappeared. Like Allen Robinson isn't there anymore. You've got Damiere Byrd, who isn't there anymore. Marquise Goodwin isn't there anymore. Some of the top receivers they had aren't on the roster. So I think that's going to open up more opportunities for Mooney. I know. I'm going to Packers total access here is letting me have it, but I think that that's not to knock the Packers. I think that in the long run, as it stands right now, I'd rather have the Packers group of receivers because I think Christian Watson, though I think he's going to be raw and might not have a super strong impact right away, I think that down the line he has a very high ceiling. Romeo Doubs I really like, and I know that a lot of Packers fans are high on him too. So that said, I think that those two guys alone provide some sort of long-term upside for Green Bay that I take over like a Velus Jones that the Bears have. I like, but he's a gadget guy as it stands right now until he proves me otherwise. And then, and I think the Bears, just looking at the rest of that roster, it's at the receiver position. It's a lot of, decent but not great veterans like Equinemius St. Brown. He's a solid backup. I mean, you guys know well at this point. And then you're relying on Byron Pringle, who, decent in Kansas City, but never truly developed into a starter. So we don't know what we have there. Dante Pettis, he's more or less been a disappointment considering his draft status. Same with N'Keal Harry. So a lot of question marks for the Bears. I'm going to give them the edge for this year just because I think the youth of the Packers is going to hurt them a little bit. But long run, I take this Packers group over this Bears group. But that's not going to matter once we get Jackson Smith and Jigba next year. But I'm going to keep pushing that narrative. But I think I'll take the Bears, but that's not necessarily a slight on the Packers' long-term prospects.
How's it going, Dose?
How fitting for you to join late, Dose.
You guys,
oh my gosh.
The question, if you couldn't tell, and I'm going to send it over to Boss, and then I'll let you two be the tiebreakers. But who has the worst wide receiver group between the Packers and the Bears? Boss, what do you think?
Now, although I do agree that Darnell Mooney, if he was on the Packers, he'd be their number one wide receiver. But after that, I am just not sold on the Bears wide receiver room at all. Like he said, we know what Equinemius St. Brown is. The dude had every single position, many chances with one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, back-to-back MVP quarterback, to prove something, and he never did. And now he's on the Bears. I don't know what he's on the depth chart wise, but in terms of the Packers, Al Lazard, one of the better run blocking receivers in the league. He's going to get his snaps. He's a good possession guy. He's not going to wow you by any means. Randall Cobb, although old, is still a trusted target on third down, and a guy that Aaron Rodgers will go his way a lot. Christian Watson, you can't not be excited by his physical abilities. 6'4", extremely fast. He's taller, stronger, faster, has a 8-inch more vertical than MVS did, and MVS was their deep threat for the past few years. I'm really high on Amari Rodgers. I think he is the future at slot. I know a lot of people don't like him and think he's, a bust or whatever after eight targets last year, which I don't agree with. But overall, I have the Packers above the Bears just because of potential, the young guys that we haven't seen in the NFL yet. Romeo Doubs looks really promising. Samori Toure, a guy that also looks very, very promising. I did a little film study on him. And for a 7th-round wide receiver out of Nebraska and also Montana before he transferred, the dude is talented. And I'm glad he made the roster. But overall, I have the Packers as the second worst wide receiver room in the NFC North, but I have them both the Bears.
Tanisha, I'm going to go to you next. Who has the worst wide receiver group?
Packers. I think the Bears have a better group. I just think Darnell Mooney is just much better than anybody on the Packers. And I also just in general was not that high on Christian Watson. So when the Packers took him with that trade, I was kind of relieved it wasn't George Pickens. But I think the Packers have potential there because I really like Romeo Doubs. Is it Doubs or Dubs?
It's Dobbs. It's Dobbs. Yeah.
There's neither.
Trust
Okay.
me, if you say either or, you're getting hate comments. It don't matter.
Right. I really liked him. So I think there's potential there. And I when you have Aaron Rodgers, I feel like all of the receivers on that team will be fine production wise. Even if the talent isn't necessarily there, the Packers aren't gonna have this huge issue at receiver, I don't think. I'm really interested to see what it looks like this week too, because Alan Lazard probably not playing. So it's gonna be Sammy Watkins, Randall Cobb, and then Christian Watson's first game. So it's really new too. So I think that should be fine production wise because you have Aaron Jones too. I feel like he's basically just gonna be a receiver this year, just pound the rock with Dillon. But for the Bears, I think just Mooney being as good as I think he is, kind of just trumps that. And I do wonder if Mooney played with Rodgers, what his stats would look like, because there's also the quarterback effect there. Bears depth-wise, I don't think it's any good. I don't like Velus Jones. I actually think Amir Smith-Marset, he's probably going to be the number 2 or 3 there. I'm not sure. But I think that he could be a nice deep threat or occasional guy that you just chuck it up to. I don't know why we tried to force special teams on him so much over here because he was no good at that. But receiver wise, I think that he might actually end up being the Bears' second or even third best receiver by the end of the season. So their talent long-term wise, just like both of you guys said, Packers probably have more potential there. But I mean, the Bears will probably add a couple really good players next year at receivers. So it's really hard to tell long-term wise, but this season I'm taking the Bears just because of Mooney.
If I can jump in quick. This whole Romeo Doubs situation, I said Dubs earlier, so I looked it up because I'm like, am I going crazy? I could have sworn it was Dubs. I just looked it up now. They called him Dubs all throughout his time in Nevada.
He didn't say anything.
He didn't say a word.
He doesn't care personally.
He
doesn't care.
Yeah. So this is totally just blowing my mind right now.
I get comments all the time. They're like, "Yo, it's Dubs." I'm like, "Dude, it's go to the Packers website. That's what I'm going off of, right?"
Yeah.
So sorry, make it up with them, not me.
So this is a revelation to me, absolutely.
If you think that's crazy, you should look up Kingsley and Agbar because not only is that causing a lot of problems, but we found videos of him saying it 2 different ways.
Or Sean Charles, you want to go that route?
Yeah. Anyways, Dose, same question to you. And
come on, Dose.
I'm going to hit you with a couple rapid fire to get you caught up to speed. But worst wide receiver group?
Well, first off, hopefully I don't sound terrible on here. And if you guys can hear me, that's good. With that, good to meet all you guys on here. Some of you I've already met. I hate to do this. I really do. But I got to side with the Packers on this one. And I'm really banking on a lot of what I felt coming out of the draft. And for me personally, going into this, I know I was like a Christian Watson guy to the point where I was like, hey, we got pick 32. If we take Christian Watson, I'm on board. And I'm standing right next to the Packers people, and they take Watson. I'm just like, okay, dang, that hurts. They're all celebrating. So I'm gonna take the Packers on this one. Romeo, okay, we're saying Dobbs now. Okay, I was saying Dobbs. I'm not. wasn't the biggest Romeo guy coming out, but I do feel like what the Packers do, I think the quick game. For me personally, I just felt like he was a place where he could really be a problem. I thought his ability to catch the ball and get up to speed very quickly and just be so dynamic with the ball in his hands is what scared me about him. My issues with him were more so just this consistency I felt like coming out in terms of pass catching, which I thought could get Aaron Rodgers in the area of like, okay, I don't know if I trust this guy. But I think if they can develop that trust, he is definitely a player that I think has been getting the hype, rightfully so, without having seen what necessarily that's been other than really the preseason games. With the Bears side, you guys hit on Darnell Moody's a dog. I mean, he is, and I don't think he gets enough credit. But aside from that, I really don't love their room. I really don't. But I do like what the Packers have with their young guys. To the vet part, I don't love what they have with their vets. You know, you talk about the Randall Cobbs and Sammy Watkins. We'll see how long, and how much he can play this season. Hopefully he can get that back on track. Not for us. But yeah, I would take the Packers on this side. But I hate to do that, man. I'm sitting in my old room. We're kind of just doing this like this is not how this is supposed to be going down. And I'm looking at all this line stuff. I'm thinking I'm sitting here saying the Packers. What's wrong with me? That's where I'm going with it, man. I feel weird, but I got
man of honesty.
There you go. There you go.
That's exactly why I wanted to do this. No, so I want to get caught up real quick. Rank the teams in the NFC North for me.
Come on, see now people are going to be coming at my honesty, yep. But no, this is legit. Okay, we're going to go. Look, man, it's so tough. The Vikings get me. The Vikings get me, man, because I'm just like, I really like what they did. I like the addition of Kevin O'Connell. I think it just fits so well with the skill set that they have in Kirk Cousins and really with that entire offense. We know what they have offensively there. But I'm going to go – I did this yesterday. I got Packers 1. And, I'm kind of back and forth with this one, but I got to do it, man, because I feel like the Lions make the playoffs. So I put Lions 2, Vikings 3. But I do see a scenario where we get 3 teams in and Bears at 4.
So we all said the opposite. We said Packers, Vikings, Lions, Bears. But, hey, no one put the Lions last. I'll say that.
Okay. That's not too bad. I'll take it, man. We take our victories, man. We take them how we can get them.
Is Justin Fields a good quarterback?
Oh gosh, I hate to do this to you, man. Look, you know what? I will say this: I wasn't a big Fields guy. Maybe that's because at the time, I think we had Stafford, and it was just like take Fields, and I was like, nah, man, I ain't taking Fields. But I will say I do feel like he's played well, especially in the preseason. And again, I know they made some hirings over there, which I think from the Packers they actually got a guy over there, and I was like, that's pretty good for him. It's a tough situation. It feels like the situation that we were in last year. It's like, dude, he's in a tough spot. I get it financially. It's a tough spot for him. So I would say I've actually been more impressed with what I've seen in the NFL than what I thought coming out. But I'm not a Justin Fields truther, if that's what we're calling it.
I think we're all caught up on that. We did have a Vikings question with the playoffs, but I think you kind of answered that already. Another one that's maybe not the most interesting position, but I feel like there's a lot of pride from each of these fan bases is running back. Everybody really likes their own running backs. So how should we do? Let's do ranking. That'll be fun. And we'll do, because I'm a Packer fan and I'm a little biased, we're going to do running back groups. And we're going to start with Boss.
Yeah, man. I got the Packers first, just because I feel like Matt LaFleur said it best. The Packers running backs are 1A and 1A with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. You put A.J. Dillon on, most of the other NFL teams, and he's going to start at running back. I loved him coming out of college in Boston College. A lot of guys did not like that second-round draft choice. I loved it. You can go back and look at my receipts. I loved A.J. Dillon, that pick, even with Aaron Jones still there. Because the thing is, Aaron Jones next year's salary cap, it's $20 million. So who knows what's going to happen there. But in terms of these two guys, they complement each other so well. Tanishka said Aaron Jones could essentially be a wide receiver, and she's 100% correct because, I expect 60 plus receptions from him this year. I think they have so much versatility. A.J. Dillon didn't catch pretty much at all in Boston College or his rookie year, but last year we saw the glimpse that he can prove and produce as a receiving back as well. A.J. Dillon is one of the most nimble 254-pound running backs I've ever seen. And I just really love the two guys they have there. Not to mention Kylan Hill potentially coming off the PUP. Really like Tyler Goodson as well out of Iowa on the practice squad. But just based on those two guys, I got Packers number 1.
Do you have any thoughts on between Dalvin and? Well, I'll let you sort it out. I won't pretend.
Yeah, I got Dalvin too. That's an easy. I mean, I like Madison as well. I'm gonna go. Ooh, this is difficult.
Oof.
Yeah, it is. I'm gonna go Swift. I'm gonna go Swift 3 with because I gotta throw up for Jamal. I got to throw it for Jamal, and then I'm going Montgomery and Herbert 4, and that's hard because these are all 4 really good running back duos with 1 and a 2. Like Herbert, great running back. Jamal, one of the better like pass blocking, pass receiving, just all around great dude. Madison, another guy that could start on a lot of other teams and could potentially be traded. Every one of these teams, the NFC North, it's very close. It's not like I'm ranking the Bears 4th and going, these guys suck, because they don't.
All right, Jacob, I'll let you rebut that.
All right, so I'm gonna go a little bit out of the ordinary. I'm gonna go Vikings first, and that's not a knock on Green Bay because I have them too. I have them at number 2, but I think that what the Vikings have, Dalvin Cook is one of the best running backs in the NFL. I think that the gap between him and say Aaron Jones is, and that's not to hate on Aaron Jones, but I think Cook is decidedly better. And I think that gives him an advantage. Alexander Madison hasn't taken on as big of a role as, AJ Dillon did last year for the Packers. I think Kene Nwangwu, the running back that they got in the 4th round back in 2021, he offers incredible value on special teams, one of the best returners already in the league. So I think that that's huge. I think they got Ty Chandler in the 5th round this year too. He's another guy I liked out of UNC coming out. So I'm going to take the Vikings 1. I'm going to go Packers 2 because, again, and like you mentioned already, then Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, that duo speaks for itself. It's a very good group. I'm going to go Bears 3, and I feel dirty putting them that low because, like we mentioned, I think they're a very good group. I think that Montgomery and Herbert are at least in the top half of running back duos in the league, in my opinion. I think Khalil Herbert showed a lot of promise. And we know what David Montgomery is at this point. Treston Ebner, the 6th round rookie out of Baylor. I think, he's a speedster. I think he's going to have some sort of role on this team this year. And then I'm going to go Lions 4. And again, that's not even a knock on the Lions. I think that DeAndre Swift is a very good running back. And, Jamal Williams is a solid backup. I just don't think they have the depth of, say a Bears or the high-end star power of, the Vikings or that, insane 1-2 punch that the Packers have.
Dose will go with you next.
Oh, this is tough. You guys made good points because, really, I'm just thinking about the depth of each team. And at first I was going to be like, man, are we kind of low on the Bears there? Because, Khalil, I like Herbert a lot. And then David Montgomery, every time I see David Montgomery, I'm like, man, that dude can play.
When you see him.
Here's what I'm gonna do. Here's what I'm gonna do, man. I can't put the Lions at last. Okay, that's crazy talk. But with DeAndre Swift, like I first off, I was a little bit lower on DeAndre Swift than a lot of Lions fans were, and then I rewatched him. Like, man, okay, I love how this dude plays. But I do take into account, he does miss some time. He's a heck of a back in terms of the receiving game. I'm gonna put, dude, I can't do this. Can I really go back to back Packers? All right, here's what I'm gonna do.
You can, Dose. You can.
Gosh, okay.
You can do it.
So I'm gonna put Packers 1 because Aaron Jones I think he's outstanding, and then of course, like you said, AJ Dillon's a heck of a running back 2. I'm gonna put them 1. I'm gonna go Lions 2. I'm gonna go Lions 2, and to me, it's not even as much as about the top heavy thing. Is I'm so. I don't know what the right word is. Like, I'm so interested to see what Craig Reynolds becomes because, if you've seen him last year, there were times like, dude, he might be our best running back. And I know it sounded crazy. It was a small sample size, but I'm just such a fan of that guy. So I really like what we just have the stable. I don't know if I would argue that any of those guys are the best within this division, but I really like that 3, headed monster they kind of have there in terms of, I don't know if there's any kind of drop off whenever you go to your 3rd running back versus your number 1. I just don't see a major drop off there. So I'll go Lions 2. This is really tough. This is really difficult. I'm gonna go Bears 3, Vikings 4.
Ooh.
It feels weird to do that. It feels so weird to do that because
okay.
Man, he is. But I'm trying to think like, okay, well, what happens when we get to the backups? Yeah, Alexander Madison's cool too. I do like him. We talked about him, man, especially team's impact. But I'll give some Bears some love, man, because I do like I like the 1-2 they got there. And David Montgomery just feels super underrated all the time to me. So that'll be my 4. That's tough.
All right, Tanishka, you're up.
Well, I just don't think the Vikings should be lower than 2. I mean, I love the argument for the Packers at 1 because personally, I'm not that high on Alexander Madison. I'm just not a fan. His vision is awful, and half of the time it just feels like he's running in mud. But I love Ty Chandler. I love Kane Wangbu, so that's the reason I like our depth. So I still think the Packers number 1 though, because I think even though Dalvin Cook is sizably better than both Dillon and Jones, having Dillon and Jones, like, because it's a group ranking, that just makes the Packers group better. And I just don't think Alexander Madison is nearly good enough to be put in a conversation with the 3 of them. So that just hurts our group. Maybe Ty Chandler becomes that guy. I do think Ty Chandler takes over the second running back role at some point this year. And Alexander Madison's in the last year of his contract too. So I personally would have traded him by now, even if we could get like a 7th for him. It's better than letting him walk for nothing. Because we have 4 running backs and a fullback on our roster right now. So it's like, it worked out at the end, but that's a lot of That's a lot of players for that one position. So Packers 1, Vikings 2, and then I am so conflicted about the Lions and the Bears because I think Montgomery's really underrated. But I think Swift has this potential that he still hasn't hit yet. Like with just how he could be used in the receiving game too. I just feel like the Lions just haven't used him to his full extent. And I really think Jamal Williams is a good backup. I like that Jamal Williams, Aaron Jones duo too that Green Bay had a couple years ago. So I think I would go Lions 3rd right now, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the Bears had a better running game or Khalil Herbert and Montgomery were just a better duo. Like those 2 are really close. So you could go either way. Like just like I think that 1 and 2 are close, I think 3 and 4 are pretty close too. So if people switched it, it wouldn't really make too much of a difference.
Yeah, I think they're all real close, personally.
Yeah.
So Jacob, I promised you a half hour. So if you got to bounce, I get it. But there's one more I want to sneak in here. Anybody that's got to leave, that's fine. I told you guys a half hour. But as I'm looking at these, I think there's another one that there's a lot of pride in, and that's pass rushers. So I'm kind of curious with all the pass rushers here. And I think we're going to do, well, let's say duo. So you're number 1 and you're number 2.
Okay.
Tanishka, let's go with you first. And we'll do a ranking again if you can do it.
Here comes the Z talk.
Yes. I mean, I personally think Vikings number 1. The only issue I have, I feel like if Za'Darius and Daniil hadn't been dealing with so many injury issues recently, especially Daniil, like the last 2 years, it's just so unlucky. That this wouldn't be a debate at all. But the injury conversation is pretty legit too. Because I know with Hunter last year, we were all worried that he wouldn't be the same player after that neck injury. And then he had 6 sacks or something in 5 games until he got hurt again. So he was great. So hopefully, and both of them have been tearing it up in training camp. They were cooking both of the Niners tackles, Trent Williams too. So that was exciting. But I think that if both of them play the healthy guys that we know they can be, then ours is probably the best. I remember the last time that both Daniil and Za'Darius were healthy, even though that was 2019. They were number 1 and 2 in pressures in the league, so that was pretty cool. So I would go us number 1, but honestly, there's a little caution there just because the whole injury thing. I'm not quite sure how both of them are going to look after the season-ending injuries. I'm so excited to see Za'Darius this Sunday. Just with all of the drama with the Packers and David Bakhtiari maybe not playing, so and being at home too, that always helps. I think that he's going to be really fun to watch this week. Number 2, I think, is pretty easily the Packers. Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith. I would not have a problem if somebody said that was number 1. Those 2 are 2 really good players, and the Rashawn Gary breakout last year was pretty sweet too. He was really good. Number 3, I'm going the Bears because Robert Quinn. Honestly, I had a question about that for Jacob. Quinn had 16, 18 sacks last year, some crazy number. So why wouldn't the Bears just trade him? Because clearly it's a rebuild. They don't really need him, and I feel like he's not going to repeat that season. That's what I was wondering for a while.
Yeah, no, I mean, truth be told, I was expecting that they'd at least, heavily shop him. And I thought that trading him now was, the best you're going to get for him value wise. He's, getting older. He has an expensive contract. Is probably the most value he's going to have in a single offseason. So I don't really know why they didn't trade him when, they made the move. They, traded Mac. They didn't re-sign Akeem Hicks, whatever, and letting the old guard go, releasing a handful of those guys to shed cap space. I was a little confused by that. Maybe they just didn't get, enough value that they thought comparative to him. I truthfully don't know, but that's what I'd guess is they have a set value for him. And they're like, okay, we could give him away for a certain price, but we just don't want to give him away for the sake of giving away. So that's what I think. But again, I'm not so sure. I thought that, a trade is logical. So that's, a totally valid thing to ask. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he was really good last year, so I still think that the Bears would be number 3 just because of him.
Yeah.
If Mac was still there, then that would be a crazy 3-way first place tie kind of thing. And the Lions, I mean, Hutchinson, I think is going to be really special soon. I don't know about this year. He could win Defensive Rookie of the Year, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. So they have a really good future there, but right now, it's either unproven or it's just not there yet. So in a couple of years, this could look totally different because the Lions are more future oriented in that aspect, but they're probably quite easily number 4 right now.
Dose, I'll go to you since you were the the butt end of that one. With Aiden Hutchinson being there, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's like when we look at these positions, like, you're just going to go across each team and it's like, man, the injuries. Because if we're talking the top 2 guys, I mean, okay, are we all right? All right. Okay. No, I mean the Hutchinson and Romeo thing, I would love to see what that looks like, but can I even count those 2 together? I don't think that'd be fair. So I would then have to look at Charles Harris and Hutchinson, and I do feel like Aiden Hutchinson will win Defense Rookie of the Year. I mean, dude, I love this dude. I mean, I really do, and I know people are like, hey, this dude's crazy. I'm like, dude, he's getting 15 sacks this year. I'm just putting it out there, but no, I think Hutchinson is great, and I think it's always about the pass rush. At least that's what fans love, right? They love the pass rush, but I just love it because I love what we have in run defense there, and I feel like we've been lacking some of that just because we've missed guys for so long. With Flowers, he played 4 games, and it's like, what do we have in this? And same thing with Romeo now. So I'm gonna put. I'm gonna put the. I want to put the Packers one. I think I'll put the Vikings one. I've been showing way too much love to the Packers. I was
going to say, you were almost on a hot streak there.
Yeah.
We got to stop, man. Okay. No, I think the Vikings do have the best when you think about it. But then again, like you said, it comes down to again, the injury thing there with Hunter and Za'Darius. But while it's maybe to me close between the Packers and the Lions, because again, we're just trying to see who's healthy and who's not here. Because I mean, Rashawn Gary was outstanding last season, and I love Rashawn Gary for the same reasons. Like, this dude will get, he'll get his nose dirty, he'll play the run, and it's like, okay, this guy will play too. So I love Rashawn Gary, but I'm gonna put the Lions 2 here. I'm gonna bank on some projection with this. I am, but I've been showing way too much Packer love, man. I can't have them love every category. What are we doing? So I'm gonna put the Lions 2 because Aiden Hutchinson is gonna be incredible. And then I'm going to put the Packers. I'll put them 3 because I just feel like with the Bears, I have a little bit more questions that just, and you may be able to answer this better, just beyond what they have in their top passer. Like, well, what are we looking at beyond there? And I guess that's probably a similar question you could honestly have with the Lions without Romeo. But I feel pretty good about Charles, even though I don't think he's elite. I think he's just good. But I think Aiden Hutchinson will be elite. So I'll go that order.
Jacob?
Yeah, so I'll get this one and then I'm gonna have to hop off, unfortunately. Yep. But I'm gonna go Vikings first. I think that edge tandem is, really good. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun to watch. You got Danielle Hunter on one side, Za'Darius Smith on the other. I think that's gonna be very tough for opposing teams to stop. Then I think I'm gonna go the Packers too. I think Rashawn Gary was, very good this past year and doesn't get enough credit league wide. So I think, that's also another insanely good team, insanely good tandem. Then I'm going to go the Bears at 3. It's close between the Bears and the Lions because I think they both have upside, but they both have question marks. And with the Bears, it's how does Travis Gibson do in a full-time starting role? I mean, as you recall, Khalil Mack got hurt and missed a lot of time last year. alongside Robert Quinn, who had statistically the best pass rushing season in Bears history. And yeah, Robert Quinn's up there in age. Travis Gibson's fairly unproven. But I just think the Lions have a bit more in the way of question marks. I think Aiden Hutchinson's going to be a stud. I think he's going to be very good right away. He was my top overall prospect in this year's draft. Why the Jaguars went Trayvon Walker above him is, it's beyond me. But, and I'm a little bit pissed, being a Bears fan. I'm like, oh, crap, I'm going to watch this guy face my team twice a year. But no, I think he's going to be good right out of the gate. But until I see that in a regular season action, I can't put a ton of weight to that yet. Romeo Okwara had a really good 2020, but he got hurt last year. So we don't know what he's going to be. Charles Harris stepped in well in his wake, but he's generally been just mostly a rotational caliber guy prior to last year. So I think that you could go interchangeably with the Bears or Lions. I wouldn't be mad either way, but I'm giving the Bears the slight edge just because Robert Quinn's coming off of, the best year of the bunch. So that carries a little bit of weight, but, just all around, just enticing pass rushing groups from everyone all around.
And we will leave the question at this. So, Boss, bring us home, man.
All right. I'm glad you said 2 edge rushers because outside of the 2 in the Packers, you got big question mark. But different story. But I'm going Packers.
Here, though.
I mean, we got Tipa Nalia, Kingsley Anabare, John Garvin. Who knows? Should bring in a veteran, honestly. But okay, I'm going Packers number 1 just because Rashawn Gary, I think he's and I've heard this a few times and people say it's crazy, but defensive player of the year caliber type player. Like this dude, he had a breakout year last year. I think he could be even better this year. He's been wreaking havoc all training camp, and it's just training camp, whatever. Preston Smith is one of the most solid veteran edge rushers. He had a really nice bounce back 2021 after a rough 2020. I'm gonna go Vikings number 2. I love Daniel Hunter. I think this dude's gonna have an awesome year. I believe he had 6 sacks in the 7 games last year, which is still super impressive. If this dude's healthy, I think he's neck and neck with Rashawn Gary for the one of the better pass rushers in the league. I'm putting them 2 just because of Darius. I think his captain chain's gonna weigh him down. He's gonna hurt his back again. Personally, this dude's giving me major Greg Jennings vibes, and I'm being a little biased here. I'm going Vikings number 2, although I will give him respect when he is healthy. This dude is good. Darius Smith is a good player. I can't discredit what he's done, what he did for Green Bay in the few years he's here. Going Vikings number 2. I'm going Bears 3 just because, as most of you guys said, Robert Quinn. Great. Dose, man, come on. I love Aiden Hutchinson, though. I'm going Bears 3. I'm going Lions 4, but hey, we could be 2-3 weeks in and I might switch that. You know what I mean? Aiden Hutchinson, I love the dude. I agree. I have no idea what the Jaguars are doing, but I guess we never really do. The Trayvon Walker, I don't get it. Whatever. I was also upset when I saw that, and I was like, oh, goddamn. Like, here we go. We're going to get, guy from Michigan staying in the state with the Lions. They're going to have their whole fanboy stuff going on. I love Aiden Hutchinson, but I don't want him staring down Aaron Rodgers. I don't. I think he's going to be good, just like Dose said, but just for that question mark, what we haven't seen yet, I'm going them at 4.
All right, guys, a lot of unanswered questions, but we're going to leave it at that. I really, really appreciate you all jumping on. I know this was for pretty much everybody, especially Jacob, pretty last minute, but I'd love to be able to do this, if not next week, several times throughout the season, because I think this was fun and very informative. So I'll let you guys get going. You guys have a good night. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time.